guys, it's Jennifer. Today in my kitchen I am so excited because we are going to make homemade French bread. And this is so exciting for me because bread is like one of my two food groups. I've got bread and I've got cheese, and so something that I make all the time is French bread, and I think you guys are going to love it. I know a lot of people are intimidated with yeast-based recipes, but I promise making bread is not difficult at all. There's just a few key steps that you want to follow, and I'll show you exactly what to do, and then you never have to buy store-bought bread again, and it's such a rewarding feeling. It's so easy, and I think you guys are going to love it, so let's get started. The ingredients that you'll need for this bread are very simple. You're going to need some bread flour, a little bit of sugar, as well as active dry yeast, some warm water, some table salt, you could also use kosher salt, a little bit of oil just to coat the bowl, and an egg for the egg wash. Now before we get started on this bread, I just want to give you guys a quick rundown of the ingredients you're using. These are all very simple basic ingredients, but they all serve a very essential purpose. The first one is our bread flour. Now we're using bread flour in contrast to all-purpose flour because bread flour has more protein in it, which creates more gluten, which is going to make our dough more elastic. It's going to give it a better crumb and better texture, just far superior to all-purpose flour. So you really want to use bread flour instead of all-purpose flour in this recipe. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is our yeast. I'm using active dry yeast. It's what I've always used in baking. Feel free to use bread machine yeast or instant yeast if that's what you're comfortable with. But when we're using a stand mixer, I really prefer to use active dry. The next thing we're going to talk about is our sugar. Now the sugar is going to help activate our dry yeast. Our dry yeast needs something to feed on for it to really bloom and activate. So I'm just using some regular granulated sugar to serve that purpose. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is our water. Now the water is so important, and I think the thing that really intimidates home bakers is that they'll have their bread sitting out all day and it'll never rise because of their killed yeast. And the yeast is always killed because the water is too hot. Now we want to really heat this water to a temperature of no more than 120 degrees, normally between 110 and 115 is really the nicest temperature for this water to be at. I normally just warm it up in the microwave, and I've baked bread so many times that I can really just dip a finger in it and tell. But if you're baking bread for the first couple times, just stick a thermometer in there, and if it's too hot, just add some cool water to it or let it sit. But you really want this to be between 110 to 115 degrees. I've got my stand mixer fitted with a dough hook attachment. I'm going to add my sugar and my yeast. Now I'm going to add my warm water to my yeast and sugar. Now we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes just to let that yeast activate and proof, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Did you guys see how beautiful that was? Oh my gosh, if I could just set that as a screensaver on my phone, that would be amazing. And you can also really smell just the yeast in here. Oh my gosh, it smells like fresh bread. It smells so good. Now the next thing we are going to do is I'm going to add my salt now. Now I didn't want to add it before because salt, when you add it with the sugar, it kills the yeast. And so I want to make sure that I activated the yeast with that sugar first, and now that it's alive and well, we can add the salt. Now the last thing we have to add is our bread flour. Now my general rule with all bread and yeast recipes is that I like to add probably about 75 or 85% of the flour at first. Never add all of my flour immediately because it could leave your bread really dry if you add too much, and so I like to start off slow. So we're just going to add probably about 75% of our flour. Now I'm going to turn this on and knead this. Now you might not need all of your flour, or you might need a little bit extra flour. It really just depends. Just add it as you go, as needed, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. There we go. Now as you can see, the dough is nice and elastic, and it's a little bit tacky without being sticky. Now we're going to add the oil to our bowl, and this is going to help keep the dough from sticking to our bowl. And I've just got my paper towel, and I'm just using it to evenly distribute the oil around the bowl. Now we're just going to put this into our bowl, and we're just going to turn it around so that it's coated in oil. And then I'm going to cover this with a towel and put it in a warm space until it's doubled in size, and that's going to take about 45 minutes. Now it's been 45 minutes and our bread has doubled in size and is nicely risen. Now I'm just going to punch it down a little bit. And now I'm just going to dust my work surface with some flour. Just going to spread this around evenly. Now I'm going to place my flour on this board. And I'm just going to cut it in half about as evenly as I can. Now we're going to take each half and we're just going to roll it up tightly. And we're just going to pinch these seams together until we've got a nice long baguette. Now I'm just going to repeat these steps with the other loaf. now I'm just going to place the other baguette onto the baking sheet. And now we're just going to cut some slits in our bread about maybe 1/2 inch deep. And now we're going to cover them with a towel and just let them sit until they've doubled in size, and it's going to take 30 to 45 minutes. Now my baguettes have just about doubled in size. I've got an egg here and I just added a splash of water, and we're just going to whisk it together. Now I'm just going to brush this mixture gently over my baguettes. Now that I've got these evenly coated with the egg wash, we're going to pop them into a 375-degree oven until they're nice and golden brown, about 20 to 25 minutes. My baguettes just came out of the oven. They're nice and golden brown. We're going to let them sit just a few minutes before we eat. I've let this cool for a couple minutes and I just cannot wait any longer. So I'm going to cut into it. It's nice and soft. We've got lots of little air pockets. It's got a great crumb, a nice texture, and it's perfect for spreading with some butter or drizzling with some olive oil and serving with dinner. It's also great for croutons. I use this all the time for croutons or for serving with sandwiches. It's so versatile, and it's also really great for freezing. I love freezing this because it takes me a long time to make the bread, and so it's nice making it once every couple weeks and then having it. It's so nice to always have fresh baked bread. All the recipe quantities, substitutions, and suggestions are on my website, ingenskitchen.com. Hope you guys enjoyed spending time with me and have a great day.